So today's lesson is about a piece of string. And what I have is a piece of hemp fiber string. Okay. And what I've done is I took a little bit of crazy glue. Now, I don't really want to use crazy glue in my products. But this was because I'm still a little bit sick and I'm still recovering. Um, we're going to play with this today and take a look. Hang on, let's see if we can. Oh boy. Uh-oh. Put that back up. Okay. So this is how it started out. I got a piece off this morning, and what I did, this little crazy glue thing, got a little roller application like underarm deodorant or something. Pretty cool. Nah, maybe it's not a roller. I don't know. Anyway, you push on the darn thing, and it lets the glue out. And so you get a good thin layer. It's not a tremendous amount of glue that takes a long time to dry. Very small amount of glue, just the right amount of glue, and it dries almost immediately. I just put this on a couple of minutes ago, and actually I did the bottom first. You can kind of see it's shinier. And so what's going to happen is this is setting up over the next hour or so. And it becomes kind of flexible. Right? It's about as flexible as a piece of spring steel. And I can probably break it with a little more effort, I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure. But I couldn't, tear it apart. I couldn't, rip it. Because the fibers in hemp are long. They're not just little short things like cotton. Cotton's only a centimeter or 2 or 3 or 4 long. The longest cotton is not this long. Okay, the longest cotton, about this long. And they have to throw away the bottom part because it's not, doesn't make good thread. Okay, when you grow cotton, you can never grow anything else there again because it leaches the soil. And it has exactly one use, that is in clothing or threads or something. It doesn't produce other substances. Cannabis, on the other hand, has fibers that are the veins of the plant, right? So they go from the roots all the way to the top. That's how long they are, right? So this could be like a vein of the plant, and they're made out of individual little fibers that wrap around, and when the plant bends, that bending forces water up or back down, depending on which way the fibers are wound going up and down the plant. That's the xylem and the phloem, and they surround the outer stem, and then the inner stem is filled with the kind of gummy type, like inside of cane or something like that, where it's kind of a foam-looking thing. And what that is, cellulose, the stuff we make paper out of. What we do is we take fibers from things like wood is what people use now. It's very inferior to hemp fiber. Hemp fiber is long and strong, and it doesn't destroy the land. When we grow cannabis, we can use natural organic techniques with fertilizer made from compost, not chemicals. And it doesn't destroy the land, it makes it better with each crop. Okay? Petroleum comes out of the ground as a poison. It's a poison from the minute we start looking for it. We drill these holes, and they say, oh, that's a dry hole, and a few years later it starts seeping out, and the ground itself becomes totally poisoned. That's just the exploration. Once they find it, they drill wells and start pumping it out. And those wells in that area, that land, become ecological no-go zones. Plants don't grow there anymore, and the water becomes poison because the oil seeps back into the ground where it belongs. Because you know why that oil's there? That oil is there. It's not random at all. It's the tectonic plates turn, okay, and the tectonic plates in the north turn counterclockwise because the planet's traveling that way, right? Boom, from west to east, which creates a thing like this. So it's going west to east as it travels counterclockwise. In the south, it goes the other way. And they all go, the plates in the north, they all go the same way. So they rub against each other. And when they rub against each other, there's places where they rub, and you can see them. And that's where we drill for oil. That oil is put there to lubricate the movement of tectonic plates so that we don't get big, huge earthquakes. And that's exactly what happens when you pump the oil out. They say, oh, it's fracking. No, man. It's the whole thing. It's the whole process of removing lubrication from joints that need it. Okay, our planet is a living planet. It's not dead like Mars. Mars has always been dead. I don't care what they say. It's out of the Goldilocks zone, and it always has been. There's never been life there. There's never been an electromagnetic field because Mars is a solid ball. Can't make electromagnetic energy. It's just a solid ball traveling around on the sun's magnetic field, right? That's what makes it go. That's what made it happen, made it form. Sun's magnetic field going around and around. Okay, and things go around and around on the spheres, on our sphere, because underneath of the solid surface, there's a very deep semi-molten mantle that comes out as lava, right? When volcanoes blow up, well, we're floating on that. And when the pressure's on, it's not like melted like that. It's semi-molten. It's plastic, like this. so that this movement doesn't crack it, because it's got lubrication in the joints. Huh? What happens when you take the lubrication out? There you go. That right there is what happens. It wears. It starts binding, and that's what happens when you have big earthquakes. And it lets that semi-molten metal out. And it causes earthquakes big time. And it also pollutes at each and every step of the way, because that oil has been in the ground so long, or something, maybe. That's the word that we got, is that it's millions of years old and dead dinosaurs, right? And I don't know that that's true anymore. But it certainly belongs in the ground, and it was in the ground, and it's petrified. It's oil that turned into a rock. And it's long chain hydrocarbons. Okay, this is from a living plant, this fiber here of mine. The fiber came from a living plant. It's carbon, right? That's what it is. Carbon. There was some hydrogen in it, probably not anymore. Oxygen and nitrogen. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. That's what's in all living things. That's what's in my string. That's what's in my finger. That's what's in the plastic over here. And it came from living things. Okay, chon, C-H-O-N, chon. And that's what living things are made out of in various combinations. And so we can grow as much as we like. And this stuff, not only can we grow it from plants, but this plant has, Jack Herr said that there were 10,000 known uses for cannabis, because it's not only fiber, it's got the cellulose in the middle, and the oils. The entire thing is made up out of terpenes, short chain hydrocarbons, like rubber. That's what rubber is. That's what pine sap is. Those smells that we smell, that we like from pine and cedar, and there are other things that make smells, but they're called volatiles, and they evaporate because they're oils, right? In cannabis, there are 111 different cannabinoids, which are these short chain hydrocarbons that our body uses to complete the nerve, to bridge that gap between nerve cells. Okay, our body manufactures them. You don't have to use cannabis to have cannabinoids. It manufactures them from beans and rice, and it takes all of our energy to do that. Right? Everything you can eat, shove in your face, goes into making cannabinoids and opioids to bridge that gap between nerve cells, because if we don't, no signals pass, right? So we lose touch with what's going on in our body. As it is, what happens, every nerve cell in our body is separate. Okay? They don't touch each other. They have a gap between them called the synapses. And it prevents overload, sensory overload, okay, because they're sensitive to magnetic fields. And what happens is those cannabinoids work on the sending side. There's a cation and an anion for each system in our body. That's why there's so many of those cannabinoids in cannabis. And our own body does the same thing. It starts with two basic cannabinoids, a cation and an anion, and then it modifies them in each system as needed. Okay, and they do that through catalyzed enzyme reactions. And they're very energy inefficient, costly, because it does very complicated chemistry inside our body, right there, right where we need it. And it looks kind of like magic if you don't know what it is, okay? And inexplicable. But that's what it is. It's just chemistry. And our body needs these cannabinoids to work on the sending side of those gaps. And then there's 3 endogenous opioids that we call endorphins, right? Those are the endorphins. And they work on the receiving side. So they've got these 2 signals, a cation and an anion, and then the receivers. And maybe they're divided up too, that I don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet. But we've figured out basically what makes us alive. Okay, and that's what it is. It's the alkaloids from plants, not just cannabis and poppies, but all the alkaloids work in our nervous system. Well, the cannabinoids work on the sending side, but the other ones work on the receiving side by utilizing their alkaloids, and they use alkali metals in our blood to pass a standing magnetic field from each part of our body to our brain. So if I have this, and it's wrapped up, and our veins do the same thing, okay? Our veins and arteries are wrapped, and our nerve cells travel in those things, and they're attached to each part of our body, and they're connected back to the brain in one pathway. Each place has its own special pathway on one of those tiny little fibers. And it goes to one particular place in your brain. And that's controlled by the DNA and RNA in each cell in our body. So each cell in our body knows exactly where it is and what it's supposed to do, because they're attached all the time. It's not dynamic. It doesn't change over time. It starts when we're in gestation and grows with us as we grow. And this is, again, it's a population, right? All populations, cells, atoms, protons and neutrons, all of them grow along the Fibonacci sequence. Okay, it's a number thing. It's the way numbers fit together. It's not magic. It's not from some guy in the sky. It's numbers. And they fit together a certain way. And that is that the 2 previous numbers, the sum of the 2 previous numbers, tells you what the next number is. So if we start with 0 and go to 1 and 1 and 2, and 1 and 2 is 3, 2 and 3 is 5, 5 and 3 is 8, 8 and 5 is 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 144. And that's pretty much explanatory because it just keeps going. Okay, so when there's 5 billion cells or atoms or whatever, and they grow by 1.6% each day. The universe itself grows 1.6% each day because all populations grow along the Fibonacci sequence. And so as these nerve fibers are growing inside of us and our body is growing, the instructions for life are carried in the RNA in each cell, right? Not only in our nerve cells, but in the meat and muscle and skin and bones, right? Bones are hard and stuff, but they're made out of cells. And they're all connected to our brain all the time through cannabinoids and opioids. There are other things that work on the same set of receptors, right? The only big pharma would call them opioid receptors because they receive all of the things that work, right? Like eucalyptus, that it is a tremendously good bug spray. It's a volatile. That smell drives bugs away. Clove oil is the best pain medicine you can buy. Clove oil. That cost us $9. And for most people, if you're not hurting real bad like I am, that's about a 2-year supply or something, because it doesn't take much, man. It takes like a few drops usually for most people. I put in maybe 250 milliliters. Micro millimeters. Micro milliliters, little tiny, just a few drops in my juice, and I drink it, and it takes the pain away in about 30 seconds. Doesn't matter where I'm hurting, it takes the pain away. Because our body works with those things, okay? And when we use it, they go away. When you take big pharma medicine, it's on 100 to 1,000 times more salt than you need. And that salt stays in your body. They're killing us with salt. And we need to eat cannabinoids and opioids and the other good food from planet Earth. Big Pharma uses opioids from GMO poppies for a whole lot of their medicine, a lot of their psych drugs, and they are harmful because instead of bridging the gap between nerve cells, they block that particular pathway, and it only takes one of them. And what they do is they latch it on to some insoluble salt, and it stays inside us. And it causes us to age prematurely. It causes us to die before we're 100 years old. And we don't have to. We can live for thousands of years if we're clever, right? There's never any guarantees from one day to the next. But if you're clever as clever, and you put cannabinoids and opioids into your daily diet by using hemp seed oil, the seeds, not smoking dope, right? And that hemp seed oil comes in fatty acids and lipids that our body uses to metabolize, to live. And they can go right through the cell walls and feed your cells. Cannabinoids and opioids don't go in our muscle cells, they go in receptors on our nerve cells to bridge the gap between nerve cells so that we have a passage of signals through a standing magnetic field on each little fiber. And that stays separate because it's wrapped in a substance called nociceptin. Comes from poppy seeds. And if we don't get poppy seeds, we don't get nociceptin. Our body has to manufacture it from beans and rice. It's a very, very, very complicated molecule, and if you don't get the phytomorphinans from poppy seeds, it causes premature aging and death because our body doesn't work right. If we put poppy seeds and cannabis oils in our daily diet, our body begins making stem cells. And we can regenerate just about anything. That is kind of the conclusion of the research my brother did at UCSD. He passed away in 1993, and I had, been listening to him as he went through his college years and graduate work, and then we lived in the same area.